everybody. Welcome back to Grow Ahead. Today is episode number 4. And as well, we are a year into the whole coronavirus, COVID-19, stay at home, work less kind of lifestyle. And it's definitely something we wanted to tackle today. We are kind of going to approach this in a things we've seen sort of way, and try and keep more of the politics out of it, just because we're trying to help people look at everything that we do in a way where we can take circumstances from the world and learn from them, right? And kind of grow. So, I don't know, being a mom, I've noticed like from schools being closed and things like that our kids are actually, some kids are, stressed out and it's not working well. But I also feel like in the environment that our kids are kind of used to of being more digital experiences with kids, and I think that's like helping and kind of easing some of the transitions. I kind of feel like people my age might be struggling a little bit more with it, because we are more physical creatures. Like, we like our interactions in person. We like to see and touch and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like that, not saying there are not kids that are struggling, but I think the fact that they have some benefit to being digitally connected versus physically connected. What are things that you're noticing?
Things that I've noticed, just in general, I knew people who have had like procedures and have been in the hospital and different things during this time. And that especially has just been hard on like the people in there, just because, you know, it's wanting to have support and have people there, someone holding your hand during a tough time. And, to be told like you can't do that or they can't see you, it's hard.
Yeah, my dad actually had surgery during this time on his head. And, we had to drop him off and be like, good luck. And that was it. And he had to go do it all, by himself. Um, you know, I think it was harder on my mom than it was on my dad. He's just that personality type, where it's fine. Don't worry about it. Everything will be fine. But her not being able to be in there was really difficult on her too. So I've had some friends who grandbabies were born during this time, and you can't be there, um, or even really go see them after the baby's been born right away, right? Like, it takes a lot more planning, you know, quarantining, things like that before being able to go. Um, so it's definitely different. Some of the stuff that has happened here where I live, because, when the people lose their jobs, or, work is at least minimized, right? Stress levels go through the roof. And um, until you're in a tragedy or, anything like that, you don't necessarily know how you're going to handle it. And sadly, there's been a lot of things, but two that really, really stick out in my mind. Um, uh, a couple, who, at least one of them was a doctor here, and at our big hospital here. Her and her husband were murdered by um, like their daughter's boyfriend, and I think maybe one of his friends. It's still, like, trial stuff is still going on, so we don't know all the details yet. But one of the things that has come up was, she's a doctor. um, she was trying to tell her daughter, we need to take a lot of precautions. You can't socialize the way you were socializing. And so the parents of this young lady physically rented like an Airbnb or whatever for the daughter and the boyfriend to stay at so that they could socially distance and not put her at danger, like or at risk, because she needed to go attend to patients. And because she was in an environment where, you know, like you're not really sure what you're going to be exposed to, right? That she, wanted to make sure that she wasn't bringing something home and then they were going out and about and, giving it to other people. So they put them in an Airbnb. Anyway, I'm not sure what went wrong or, like I said, I don't know the details, but I feel like that was definitely a crime that might not have happened in like an environment where the pandemic wasn't happening. And they weren't that old, and I don't know, it was just very sad. And um, the other one is literally on the street behind our house. Um, uh, a dad murdered his teenage daughter, and he the the bit of the story that has come out is um, he was drinking and they, I don't know, ran out of alcohol or something. So the wife went to the store and the daughter stayed home. And while the mom was gone, he killed the daughter. And when the wife returned, he attacked her, but she actually got away. But he had told her, that the daughter was already dead. And again, I mean, you never know how people are going to react. If you lose a job, if you um, are facing, financial difficulties or whatever was going on, I don't know, but um, those kinds of tragedies are awful. And when we aren't, there's a lot of, let's use kids for an example, that by being able to go to school or to sports or things like that, that's their relief from some other life that a lot of people might not even know about. And in situations like that, those things are heightened, and abuse is more, or at least it's constant, where before you might have been getting a break from some of that stuff. And so I think it's really important that instead of driving your thought process by political views or whatever it is, that you stop and think about like things that are really important. And that's one of those things, is that getting back to a more normal lifestyle, being out, being able to do things or whatever, is actually benefiting other people as well. So we have to find some sort of balance in what is going on.
When you heard this story and like found out, or both of those things, what was your initial reaction? Like, were you nervous, scared, anything like that?
It's definitely scary, but not in a sense of like, I felt, at least in those situations, they were very targeted. So it's not like you felt like you were truly at risk. It was scary to see that those kinds of things were going to be on the rise, just because of the fact that, you know, um, isolation could do a lot of crazy things to someone's mind. And, add into that stress from, just what's going on, or, the snowball effect of what's going on. So it's like, we have this virus that no one really knew anything about, and then add into that, now work is closing down and you can't socialize and you can't do a lot of things. And there's a lot of people who struggle with the constant being around their family. That could be hard on some people. And that is what was kind of scary, is the eye-opening thing that, we might be taking these steps to protect some people, but the steps that we're taking are affecting others, and because we don't, like, we can see what the virus is doing, but some of us don't know what, like, that behind closed doors looks like for other people. It's a lot easier to be like, oh well, we need to do this to save these people, but since we're not seeing the effects of like this other lifestyle that some of us might not even know about, um it's, I don't know, that's what's scary to me, is like losing that balance.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot, just where they're doing something that's, helping in terms of germs or things like that, but then it's harming someone else in like a mental way or whatever that, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
it's, yeah, like for instance, even certain like birthdays and different things like that, like with the cars and like, having like a
Right.
party, and it's just not what you're used to, you know what I mean? You're used to getting a hug or like, hey, high five and
Exactly. Well, and I don't know, like, you're probably like me. I need that sort of contact. When I see my super close friends, I'm a hugger. And like, I've actually made, like, or passed along, I should say, like, the jokey post on Facebook where it says, like, your friends who hug all the time, like, you need to check on them. They're not okay, which is really a true thing. Like, I'm lucky because I'm not home, like, by myself. So I still get that contact. But like my sister, for example, I mean, it's her and her dog. And, for months on end, it was like, we would do video chats and whatever, because I was like, she's probably not like she's okay, but not okay, you know?
yeah.
So, those are the things that I feel like people don't quite understand, is that, um, the rise in that. I was reading a thing the other day that was talking about how, suicide among the age group like 12 to 24 has gone up, like, I think I read like 62%, and it was already high. So I can't imagine, what some kiddos are going through, or what some young adults are going through. Like, some of those people are, say young folks that are on their own for their very first time ever, graduated high school, maybe went to college, and then all of a sudden, like, their life got thrown about, or, maybe they didn't go to college and they just moved out. And all of a sudden, like, now they're like, it's one thing to be on your own, but now you're alone, and, um, like, my heart goes out to all of those people.
Yeah, it's really hard. Even if you have pets and stuff, it's not the same as like human interaction and,
Right.
getting like touch from somebody or like a hug or, good job or rub on the back. And, it's just this like the physical touch part has, so much to do with connecting people. And like when that's taken away, it's like there's some of that connection being lost.
I agree. So, for you personally, has that, you know, how has COVID affected your life? If it has.
Um, like in terms of doing certain activities, like I'm somebody that likes to go around and do different things and, explore and whatever. And so, like, when I was told all these things were being shut down and, you can't do this and you can't do that, it was just like, oh, okay. So, but I'm pretty creative and like resourceful where it's just, okay, we can't do that. Like, what can we brainstorm to do or replace this or, try to create something. So, in the midst of everything, we wanted to get out or exercise or do different things. And, my family and I just started playing tennis. And so, we started doing it like for months on end until it, obviously got cold and whatever. But it's a good sport to play because you're still getting your distance away from people because you're across the other side of the net and stuff. So in that way, it's still safe and it's just fun.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic actually. Um, did work change? Did you get stuck working at home? Did any of that kind of stuff change for you?
So it was just up and down. Like they would offer it throughout like a few different times, like throughout the whole thing. so from like it was just mandatory for everyone to around, but it was like March 19th, March 20th when the governor like announced like, hey, all this is getting shut down. So from that day up until like the first or second week of June, like I was just working from home and like navigating everything and just like trying to like, and I think that just made things a little more difficult in the same breath because it was like I'm living in this space, but like I'm also working in it. So it felt like there was no break. And like since you couldn't go anywhere, like it just felt like stuck, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I hear that. Um, so, um, have has anyone that you know personally gotten the virus?
Um, like I've heard, like different people may have like in my extended family or stuff like that, but personally like our the owner of my company, my boss, and then like I think two other people got it. And we're not like a huge company or anything. It's like less than 20 people. So when people first heard and like they didn't know what it was truly, they were, and everybody was like freaking out and stuff. So
Yeah,
um everybody was getting tested and trying to maintain distance. And so that part was like interesting to see. And like, I don't know, I guess you just don't know who and what. And like, when you hear it and I don't know, try to think of like anybody that might happen to, it's like, I don't know, when it happens, it's not the person you expect it would be, I guess, like in terms of health issues or different things. So that was interesting to see in like their own experiences. Like some people said it was like nothing, others would say like, wow, like it really took a toll on me this way. So
yeah,
even just hearing their stories of like how it affected them was just different.
sure. Yeah, I think I've only known one, maybe two people, but that's it. And it again was one of those things where it wasn't horrible by any means. Some of the one complaint I heard the most was about losing your sense of smell and sense of
Yeah.
taste, which is strange all in itself. I mean, but other than that, I really don't know anyone that has been, you know, like actually, um, like whether they had it or someone that they know had it. Um, so the one thing that I think is really important is the fact that, like, I get that the unknown, and which is pretty much what we're dealing with. We don't necessarily know how it would affect us personally if like we got it or someone we loved got it. We don't know when things are going to start to like open back up or what, like, I don't think anything's going to be the normal that we once knew. I think going forward, it's always going to be some sort of new version of normal. But no one even really knows like when that's going to happen. So those kinds of unknowns, I think, are what drive like the fear and the chaos that we see in life right now. But like, I also believe that like fear isn't something that's just out in the world. Like if you take away people, right? Like there's not fear. Like fear isn't just hanging out in the environment. So that being said, fear is driven by our own thoughts. And so, um, like, yes, it can, the situation is scary and I'm not trying to downplay that at all. But I think one thing that people can take from this if they're trying to truly change like their life going forward or whatever is that how you think of it is how it's going to affect you. And I don't mean like the physical like virus, like if you were to get the virus like you could be sick. I understand that, but um if so you take the facts, because no matter what, somewhere there are facts about this virus. And if you constantly listen to the news, no matter what kind of news you listen to, even if you listen to a variety of news stations or reports or whatever, we all have to realize that one thing that the media is supposed to do is tell a story, right? Like, um, they're going to tell it in a way that gets more viewers. I mean, we really have to view media, I think, for one, in a way like ultimately, yes, they're taking facts of what's going on in the world, but their job is to create and to get views and all that kind of stuff. And so um, I know a lot of people get mad that media changes and you're not always getting the same story necessarily or whatever. But I think if we keep in mind that they are just doing their job because, you know, their job is to tell a story and get ratings. And if they don't get ratings and they don't whatever, I mean, those people are most likely fired. And so, and you never know. Some of my customers at work are reporters, and they will come in and be like, I'm only reporting the way they tell me I have to. So, you know, you never know. Like I don't know if you can necessarily get mad at, um, you know, media exactly. But that being said, I think if you can take the facts and then create your own thoughts about a lot of that, you'll be in a better position. So shut off the TV, like, get some facts, whatever, shut off the TV and stop and really think about what's going on. And because without our thoughts, there is no fear. So I just feel like, we can make our fear way worse, by letting our minds just like, oh my goodness, if I get this, I'm going to die. If I get that, like whatever it is that you're thinking, right? Like we can go off the rails with that. And so I think it's really, really, really important that no matter what life throws at you, no matter what circumstances are always that we control our thoughts. Like that is one thing that we do have control over. And so like if, you want to feel less of the chaos, stop and think about what you're thinking, and as soon as we can become accountable for what we're thinking, I think that would make a difference. And that doesn't just only apply to what we're going through right now, but just everything in life. But, in this sense, like, I mean, I don't know if people know, but your brain is truly like its job is to keep you alive. And so it's always looking for danger. Well, of course it's going to take what the news is telling you, and it's going to be like, holy crap, you need to run, like run know because it's going to try and do whatever it can to keep you alive. Like that's your brain's job. So I think if we can just kind of stop for a second and just think of what we are thinking and then think about why we're thinking it. So like Simon Sinek always talks about, like, know your why, and start with your why. That doesn't just apply to when you're trying to figure out a career or, who you are in life. Like that truly gets broken down into every aspect of your life. And if you can figure out why you're thinking what you're thinking, then I think you would have, I just said think a whole lot in that sentence. um, but then you would have control over where your thoughts are going, and therefore, have control over the feelings that you are feeling.
Yeah. And even like with when people say like you are, what you put inside yourself, and that could be food, that could be information, that could be music, whatever it is. And same with the news. Like if it's like playing, they always do that too, where it's like, like this music, it's sometimes it's happy, sometimes it's not, and it's like, like, oh, new COVID updates, dun dun dun. Like, I mean,
Right.
like,
Right. It's like
like
they just want you to like feed off of
right.
that.
And like people, keep watching it and keep watching it. And it's like if they're warning you with the music, like, and you're still going back. And I'm not saying like don't get your information from the news, but just like if it's making you feel bad, or like don't watch it as much, or find another way to get your information.
Exactly. Like sometimes I feel like reading facts is way better than listening because now you have a human and you can't control what their thought process are or how they're feeling. And even if they're just reporting something, their opinion and thought process and emotion is in that piece and it comes out. Well, a lot of us can read, into that. And then we're like, oh my goodness, well, if they're terrified, like I need to be terrified. And I think being informed and having a plan are actually serving you way better than just taking things that you hear and being like, I just need to be terrified. Like, this is awful. And I feel like if thoughts that you have are not serving you, then you need to change how you're thinking because it being in constant fear or like, you know, um, like that chaotic mind space, it's not helping you at all. And really, I mean, we need to come to terms with the fact that things might not be how we once knew. And so, like, coming up with a plan of how we can maybe do things differently, and still be able to be who we are and still be able to function and still be able to be okay is important. And it's okay to be okay. So, I think we need to just kind of recreate our thought process on some of that.
And with fear, it causes, one of two or three responses where, there's fight or flight. And then there's also another one that I'm just
I think
blanking.
it's freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so like I just need to address like the whole toilet paper thing. Just, and
Exactly.
I think like, yeah, and like with the news and what we were just talking about and people just not knowing and being in fear, like just, and even it fear comes out in different ways, and like, and in that way it just came out as like hoarding and being like, not thinking of anyone else, who needs it just for regular use, not like stockpile purpose.
Right.
It makes you act in different weird ways that you normally wouldn't.
Yeah. And I still laugh about that. Like, you know, uh, okay. So again, I apologize because anything I say is probably going to make it sound like I don't take the whole thing seriously. I get that it's real. But if it was like to the point where we should be hoarding and not going anywhere, and don't you think that like grocery store workers or would have been dropping like flies? I mean, I'm not saying that no one got sick, but we didn't have like this mass spread of like, hundreds of Walmart employees died today. Like we didn't have any of that. I get, if you're going to hoard, if crap like that was happening, because then you'd be like, I don't want to go anywhere. But we weren't having that sort of thing. So yes, if you were older, if you are, if you do have underlying health issues, any of those kinds of things, I understand taking even more precautions than somebody else. um the other thing I want to bring up is the shaming that has started to go on because of this. Like, it's, I don't care what it's like the same thing with parent shaming. Like, you can't shame because someone's not raising their kids necessarily like the same way that you are, or, you know, but I don't know. Like, so this whole thing with the shaming is ridiculous. If you don't want to go anywhere, you don't want to leave your house, that's your choice and that's okay. And be okay with it. But it's definitely not right for you to like belittle other people because they're not living by your rules. And so I think there's a difference between, you know, like if you're sick and you're going around and you're, infecting other people, that's one thing. And that's, horrible. But if you're still going to the grocery store and whatever, that does not make you an awful person. And I think we need to get some of that stuff back in check because that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and especially like with people who like if for instance, you're going to the grocery store or wherever it is, and like obviously everyone's requiring you wear a mask. And even if you vocalize like you don't like wearing a mask, but you're doing it and you're following the rules, that are in place and everything. Um, I've even seen it that way where people are like, yeah, but they said they don't like wearing masks and that's awful or that's this. And but it's no different than like, okay, they're still following the rules, even though they don't agree with it or don't like it. And it would be no different than, yeah, like I don't want to wear pants in my house and that's good in my house, but I can't go out in public and do that. But
Right.
you know what I mean? I'm following the rules, but I'm still doing, what I agree with.
Exactly. That was one of the things that I noticed where shaming kind of, grew a lot was, at least in our area, between the parents who, you know, want to keep their kids on, online school, and then parents who are like, I'm okay sending my kid to school. Um, you know, Everyone's different. And, they were taking the facts that they were seeing, and they were making a decision based off of, you know, how they felt about it and how they saw the statistics and whatever. I, you know, if you want to keep your kid home and online, that's your choice and that's fine. And, like, that's, if that's what works for your family, then great. If you want to send your kids to school because you feel like your kids need at least a tiny bit of social interaction, and then, like, just being able to connect, and see some, you know familiar faces, things like that, then that's fine too. And I think we need to I think that's one of the bigger things that we need to address, is this world where every single thing is a polar divide. Like, you know someone who wants to send their kid to school is not trying to kill anybody. Like, they're not it's not worth this, like, over the top reaction to. And that's one thing I don't know how we can kind of correct some of that behavior.
Yeah, it's just like ultimately that like we are all just different and we're going to be faced with different situations and some of the same, like the pandemic. And how we go about that is different from person to person, but like everyone has to know that like their way isn't necessarily the right way. It doesn't mean it's the wrong way, it's your way. And so, like, we just have to respect it as people that, like, okay, maybe this works for you, but that doesn't work for me, or my views are a little bit different on this. And that's okay. But, like, you also can't get angry at people and start, getting aggressive and, like, attacking them as a person for choices that work better for them than they do for you.
Right. Um, um, One of the things, like, I feel like we've lost, just kind of as humans in general, is listening. I feel like people want to run their mouth way more than they listen. And I think if you were to just stop and shut your mouth and hear someone out as to why they want something, or why they don't feel the same way you do, or whatever, um, I think you would learn a lot. And that, I think, is going to be important in going forward, because, again, I don't believe that things are going to go back to what we knew before. I think there's going to be a lot more businesses that are conducting business, through Zoom and whatever. I think a lot of businesses learned that they can operate with way less overhead, because people can work from home and they can make it, you know, work for their company. And one of our local schools was already talking about possibly for the next school year still doing like a hybrid thing where they do partial in school, partial out of school. Kind of feel like that's going to start to be more of a normal, what normal school looks like. And you know uh, I think that by communicating with each other and really listening to somebody, we'll be able to make the new world a way easier place to navigate.
Yeah. And talking about things I think helps just because we don't always know why someone's doing something or what they're thinking. And, you know, you could sit there all day and guess, but like, I don't know how much faster it would take you to get there. Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, just talking to people and, maybe even it's a conversation on views or your own opinion on something. And you go, well, hey, how do you feel about this? And, instead of, and that's a way of like including someone in the conversation. So it's also not taken as like, well, this is my view and, that's the end. Like, and maybe some people take it that way and including them in that way, like, hey, what are your views? Like, I'd like to hear, where you're coming from.
Right. Exactly. And um, my heart definitely goes out to small business owners during this time. I'm sure a lot of places down by you have closed. We've had a lot of places already closed. And I think that's just the beginning. I think there's going to be a lot more that, you know, don't make it through this. I think we're just now getting to the point where it's going to start to be determined more if you can make it or not. So my heart goes out to those people. I, America is run on small business. I think small businesses employ 67% of the working population. And there's going to be a lot of places that close. And so it's going to be scary what happens. Well, no, I'm not going to use that verbiage. It's not going to be scary. It's going to be different on what, what families look like and what they have to do for a living. And people are going to have to really dive deep into maybe learning some new skills or change. I think is really hard for some people, and if you've been doing something for 30 years and now all of a sudden that's not an option anymore, we need to be a little bit gentle with some people who are going to have to learn a whole new skill set for whatever job that they take going forward. So I think we're going to have to learn some patience, in this. But I also think that some good could actually come from some of this. I kind of feel, how you have to like hit bottom before you can like make things better, right? Well, maybe this is that.
Yeah, and I kind of look at it that way too, like not just learning new skills, but like this might even be an opportunity for people who have had a dream or had this idea and have been sitting on it to just like, like this is like you said, this might be almost like a rock bottom type situation. And when you're at the bottom, you can only go up. So like, I mean, why not give it a shot at whatever that is?
Right. Yeah. I mean, so if you're out there and you've lost your job, maybe instead of being like, poor me, holy crap, what am I going to do? Use this time to be like, what have I wanted to do? And is there something I have a passion for? Is there something that I've been, thinking that maybe someday, like take someday out of it, just go for it, you know?
Yeah. I just think that, during this time it's taught us a lot of different things. Like, yeah, maybe it wasn't always fun or, not what we're used to, but like it's a way to help you grow and learn how to do things differently and pick up different things. And I don't know, for that reason, I'm in some ways, I guess, glad that it happened. And, we can sort of all as people, go through this thing and come out differently.
I agree. One thing that I did notice also was the number of couples that were struggling to get through all the extra time together, being, especially when we were in like real lockdown. Um, and I really hope that in those situations, they use that experience to evaluate maybe what's important and what's not important, and use that to, work on areas where they feel need improvement. I have to say, um, I'm really blessed in the fact that, Chad and I work together. We, live together. We spend a lot of time together, and it was actually very pleasant. Like, One of the things that we have done for many years is we still try and do like a date night. I feel like married couples lose themselves in some of that, and that can be a whole nother episode. But I feel like you still need to date your spouse because someday all your kids are going to grow up and they're going to be gone. And then you're with your spouse, and you don't want to have that moment like, I don't even know you anymore,
Right, like,
or,
who are you?
you know, yeah, exactly. Or like, now what? you know? So, our date nights, we still, even though we were home and like stuck here, whatever, we still did that. Like, we did a lot of art projects together. Um, you know, we still do it now, even though things are opening back up, but we'll go for a drive. And like a lot of times we take our dogs or whatever and we go for a drive. And so, like you were saying, you guys just got creative. I think it's just really important to be able to like dig down deep and like, you know, you don't have to go to a bar for a date. Like you can, there's a million things that you can do. And so it was just really nice that we were able to do that. We don't drink at home, unless we have like company over or something, which obviously right now isn't happening, but didn't really happen before often either. But we just really don't drink at home. So like we didn't start, and we just, like we played some games, and like I said, we really did these fun art projects, and it was just really nice to kind of have a different like spin on what our normal date night would look like, but that we still kept doing it.
Well, and it's interesting you brought up drinking because even people like whether they were married or single or whatever, they're like, well, I'm working at home, like I'm just gonna drink, or oh, this is tough, like I'm just gonna buy a bunch of booze. And it was just like, I guess I understand like where like stress and all that comes in, and like you would feel like, okay, like a drink relieves some stress, but like to like where it was at a point where people are just doing it like every day, like they were working from home. And then I don't know, I guess I just thought about like, okay, if things start opening back up, if you know things do go back to normal, like, I mean, I guess how are you going to break this new habit that you started during this time? Because this has been, it's not just, oh, once in a while. Like some of these people, it was like every day, and it's like, how are you going to break that now?
Right. Yeah. Like you can't you can't put yourself in a worse off position going forward, or at least you shouldn't. So um it's definitely something that, if you have been working from home and you have been drinking a lot more or whatever, just kind of stop and ask yourself, like, what's that going to look like when things do kind of change, and what you can do, now to help you. Because, so what? It takes 21 days to make a habit, right? And isn't it 90 days to like actually create like a lifestyle change?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been doing this for a year. So just think of how long it's going to take you. It's going to take you you know, at least 90 days if you were to stop right now and, change your habits. It's going to take you at least 90 days to like kind of get back on a different track. So, um, you know, take just some inventory and figure out, like what steps you might need to do to kind of change some things. One of the other things I wanted to share is that um, it's really easy. So, like anxiety, I'm sure anxiety is super hard, right? And it's probably like through the roof right now for a lot of people. One technique that people can do to just kind of help is, because anxiety is driven by either thoughts of the past or like thoughts of your future. Like it's not usually tied to something like present. Actually, most of the time when you're suffering from anxiety, you're not connected to your present right now. So there is a technique that I heard about. It's called 5 4 3 2 1. So you're supposed to bring yourself into the present moment, list off, and you're supposed to say them out loud so that you like, 5 things that you can see right this second. And then it's 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can touch, um, two things that you can smell and one thing that you can taste. And by doing that, it brings you physically into like your moment right now. And then after you do that, like you're supposed to take like a personal inventory of yourself. Like I'm sitting in a chair, I'm okay, nothing is harming me right now. Like and just make connection with what is happening right now. And um just by doing that, even if you have to do it 50 times in a day, it can help, like, just put a break in that cycle of anxiety just for a few minutes. And it can just kind of help your body just reset itself. So don't shame yourself if you're feeling anxious or scared or anything like that. Like, just really be gentle with yourself. But it's important to take some time to like just kind of reconnect and in your actual moment. And like we've talked about journaling in past episodes, things like that. Like, just even if you're just writing it down, or whatever, anything that helps you. Like, some people are journalers and they love to journal, and they have you know tons of them from journaling their whole life. And then other people not so much. And it's okay. Like, whatever works for you, just do it and take take a few minutes. And you know what, like, being home, we probably have been able to like take a few minutes to do a little bit more of what we like. So even if you're at home and working, right, we won't tell your bosses, but we know that you are putting laundry in, while you're working. And we know that you're watching your favorite TV show while you're working. Like, it's okay. As long as you're getting your work done, whatever. I'm not going to tattle on you, but take a few minutes, even going forward, and still connect to something that you really enjoy. Because, like, it's sad when I hear people constantly say, well, I don't have time for that. I don't have time. Yes, you do. It's just a matter of like figuring out where you're going to spend your time. But you're not working 24 hours a day. So you do have time for some things, and you just have to kind of prioritize that. So just make sure that every single day, even if it's 15 minutes, you're taking 15 minutes to connect to something you absolutely love.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And people just like, instead of using the time to like worry about, what might happen, or, what's going on in the world right now, take that few minutes and do something you like, even if it's drawing a little like doodle on a, page, or, reading a book, like whatever that looks like.
Exactly. Yeah. Laugh with a friend, something, anything, it doesn't have to be what everybody else is telling you to do. It doesn't have to be, I just actually talked to a really great friend of mine this morning. She has recently started a new job, so she's working a lot more hours than what she was, and she's picked up skiing. She was saying to me, she was like, I didn't think I was going to like it this much. She's like, but it's been my like saving grace, So that's awesome. Like, try something new. Like, you might not like it, you might love it, you never know. Like, you just got to play with it, just figure it out.
The other thing I did, while all this was going on, and like we were really, shut down, was besides tennis, was just watching like funny like videos on YouTube and stuff, like on top of like getting like learning videos and different stuff like that. While I had the time, it was, yeah, getting more videos in that were just happy or made you feel good or it made you laugh for something stupid. Like, and sometimes you just need that, like just something that's gonna make you laugh and be in the moment.
Exactly. Laughing is so healing in so many ways. It's like my favorite. But yeah, my sister has seriously sent me so many TikToks through all of this, like, and she's always like, oh, I'm sorry, just one more, like, but I honestly love it. So I don't spend a lot of time doing that. And so I actually love it when she sends them to me, because then I don't have to sit there and filter through like what's funny and what's not. Like, she just sends me the good ones. And so then I just have access to that. And then, but uh, I think I think a lot of that comes from the fact that I'm always telling my kids, like, you don't need to be connected to your phone all the time. Like, but, um, you know, I just, she sends them to me. So I take it and I love her for doing that because they're hilarious. And then one of us usually sends them to our brother. So,
Yeah, I think like the silent like MVP behind everything like during COVID was like memes and TikToks and different stuff like that, just because somebody's behind the camera or behind the computer, you know, feeling like, in whatever way, and like they created this. So there are still people out there during like all this happening that, are still able to laugh or trying to make people laugh or smile. And I don't know, I just think that's awesome.
me too. And the one thing that I like, I think things are funnier when you can relate to them. So, like someone can tell a funny story and it's funny, but if you like really can put yourself in that place because like it's something similar has happened to you or whatever, like then it's hilarious. And so I think the memes have been great because like whatever meme it is that you find funny, like, oh, there's someone out there that totally gets me right now. Like, someone understands that, and then that you're not the only one out there thinking whatever it is that you're thinking. And I think that has like you said, is the MVP. I think that is very true.
So in terms of like where we are, where this all started with COVID, and where it might go, like what are your thoughts on like moving forward and like what that might look like, or new normal?
Yeah, so I definitely like um being part of the small business world, I definitely think that we are going to lose a bunch of small businesses. So I think we are going to see a higher rise in like online shopping, for example, has been big already, right? I think that's really going to be a new like the new way is we're learning that we can order our groceries online. We're learning that we can and in this like world of um like wanting that immediate satisfaction, like we know we can order something today and have it tomorrow. And we don't have to go anywhere to do that, like we can just be right at our own home. We can do it in our PJs. So I definitely think that that is one of the things that's going to grow exponentially is, that sort of thing. um I also believe, at least for a while, I mean, it most likely won't be a permanent change, but I think at least for a while, people will be, doing, like you said, like birthday parties are going to look different. And, they have been. And I think they're going to continue that way. Like if you can't have an outside birthday party, I think, you know, it's going to be, still just very different. Um, One thing that I really hope that people learn is that, like the materialistic things, just don't matter. Like, I hope that people have been able to evaluate, like, not being able to be around those that they love. I mean, your immediate family, maybe, but there's probably other people that you haven't seen physically in a long time. And so I really hope that people start to evaluate like those relationships. And, if there are people through this time that are in your life that where you're like, oh, it doesn't really matter that I haven't seen them, maybe you need to start questioning, like, like, why am I wasting my time then? Or, um, you know, maybe putting more of your time into the people who you have missed and, are sad that you haven't seen or been around or, whatever. So I really hope um, that people are evaluating that a lot more. I do think school is going to change a lot. I think that, again, we're going to just understand that we've been doing it in a completely different version. And, I, you know, I think because of that, we're probably going to turn into maybe more of a lifestyle where school is more of a part-time thing and maybe younger people start working and helping their families out more. I don't know. Because it's doable. Like, I homeschool two of our kids. So we have a senior in high school and he's, been doing the online. He actually just was able to go to school, to the actual school on Friday for the first time. And so that's only 2 days a week though, that they're going to be doing that. And I think the fact that, you know, my opinion on schools is that can make a whole nother episode in public education, but that being said, I think that uh, they're learning that they can do it in this way, and kids are still going to learn the same amount that they would learn whether they're in the building or not in the building. So with homeschooling my other two, I feel like we cover quite a bit of content in a very short amount of time. And even though we have like some guidelines on how much schooling they're supposed to get and we follow those, the amount of work that they do and get done is in drastically less time than what a school normal, like a public school day looks like. And so I think we can learn that it doesn't have to be 8 hours a day. And I think a lot of that might come from internal distractions, and having to like, deal with that and regroup. And I think we're just cushioning a lot of time in for those kinds of things. And I think we can teach our kids in a shorter amount of time and, maybe get them some other life experiences. And I think that's important, like some hands-on life experiences before they leave high school and go into the world on, whether it's college or whatever on their own. I think that's important. So I don't know. Those are just kind of the changes and that's just because that's what I'm noticing just in our own family. But what about you? Do you see any areas where you think that it's moving in a certain direction or that it could move in a certain direction?
I think like just in healthcare alone could move in a different direction. And like there, it was just insane. Like whether you'd be watching the news or you went to a hospital firsthand and you'd see different patients depending on what they were going through. They'd be, well, we don't have room for this here, or like we're gonna have to transfer you to a different hospital because of this. And so I think like with not having enough beds and different things going on while people are still having, chronic health issues. Now you have COVID patients, now you have this. And I think like with that and like even with the Zoom meetings with your doctors and stuff like that will be more of a prevalent thing and people are going to want to do that more. And it's also just, like then also people don't want to have to travel if they don't have to and stuff like that. But for me, I'd rather obviously be in person with my doctor just because like, maybe there's a certain pain or this or like they need blood or whatever it is. And so, like you can't through Zoom like, hey, touch here, does it, you know what I mean? So
Right.
some things I could, understand, or like if you're just listing off symptoms, but you might not be going through it at that moment that you have the meeting, then that, I could understand that. But if it's like something more, you need more tests or different things, then obviously you can't do that through Zoom.
Yeah, I agree. And um, yeah, I am curious to see what that's going to look like going forward because one, they've learned that they can do a bunch of it online, which to me, I think should play a role in like cost of stuff, so if you're seeing your doctor in person and they're physically like, you know, checking you out and whatever, that's a little bit more involved than a face, to face meeting on Zoom. And so I think that you know, prices need to be evaluated, and maybe that means that insurance will be a little bit more reasonable. And I think that could be beneficial, and maybe it's one of those things where if you're having something, you initially start off with a Zoom meeting and then like if you need to go in, I think if not everyone is physically going in for stuff and things are starting off with a Zoom meeting, that maybe you wouldn't have to wait as long to actually see your doctor when you physically need to go in. So that could be beneficial. So that say you are like, say you're having major stomach pains or something like that, you could talk to them today, and then tomorrow have an actual appointment, or, because I feel like their schedule would be a little bit more flexible in that. I also think that maybe some of the Zoom meetings could probably be done by their nurses, so that the doctor is free to have some more in-person things. So, like, have um, nurses are extremely intelligent and know so much. And so it's like, they can determine like, no, 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 you really need to come in, and we'll schedule it right there on the spot and be like, just come in tomorrow at this time. I think that would be really helpful in some of that. Like, I feel like there are some people who really wait a long time, especially if you have to see a specialist. Um, because of the clot in my head, like I've seen nephrology quite a few times, or not nephrology, my neurologist quite a few times. And you like the appointments are so, like you have to wait 3 weeks or whatever. So anyway, I think that would be helpful.
Well, yeah, and I think that would help with like even what we faced with bed shortages and not having enough supplies. Then this way, if you're scheduling it this way or determining like with a Zoom call first or that kind of thing, that you're prepared for whatever is coming in.
Exactly. Yeah. And, um, you know, I think that we could, I think if they plan it, in a certain way or whatever, we can, because it takes the ER out of it, um, ER is always going to deal with the people who just go in there because of, whatever. And I totally get that. But I think we'd be able to, like I said, especially with some of those specialists and things like that, not have to deal with like the chaotic environment or have them overwhelmed with, whatever, which not only benefits patients, I think it benefits the doctors as well, and just people in general with cost of things.
Yeah, and I think just overall, like even when all this started, like how you're taking care of yourself, like we had mentioned in like the last episode, and what you're putting in your body and like the things that are in your environment plays a big factor in your overall health and your immune system and like what you can protect against in that way. So I think like building that up and taking those vitamins and eating those things like even before COVID, like has probably helped people in staying healthy.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I think it's really important that we like start taking some of that on ourselves and learning what we can do to support our body systems. And you can do things on a daily basis that help your immune system out, and you know just support how your body works in general. And like you said, we've talked about it before, it's like certain foods that you eat or don't eat, or like if you do drink alcohol every single day, you're putting your body like at risk to get something way easier. So, yeah, drinking might be fun, but you're definitely breaking down your immune system when you drink. And therefore, like if you're exposed to COVID, you could get it way worse than if you weren't drinking every day. And, and that's scientific proof. There's proof behind that says like these things break down your immune system. So I think if we could just, you know, get some more education on some of that, like maybe that's even something that doctors start to provide is a little bit more, basic, you know, educational stuff, with all the access to online and whatever, maybe they can make videos that people can watch that break down how your body works and what you can do to support it. Um, like I personally am not terrified of COVID. I do all the things. I wear a mask when I go places, and because I understand that someone might have to go take care of their mother, and, I could be an asymptomatic, spreader, who knows? But so I do follow those rules. But even with my health condition, like, I am not terrified of, COVID. And the reason why I'm not is because I know that I am doing things like that help my body. Um, Again, essential oils, I know a lot of people think that they're like wacky and whatever. I use things every single day. And like, they're not like a cure all by any means, but what they do is they help support your body systems. They help your cells do what they're supposed to do. They're just like an assistant, and and I trust that process. And so like, I'm okay with that. But education to me is very, very important. So every Saturday I attend a class online to find out more of, what I can do and how I can be supporting my body and all of these things. But like, I'm taking that step and it's important to me. So and because of that, I don't live in this world of, fear and chaos and whatever. I'm like, if this happens, we're prepared to deal with it. And that's just kind of how I live.
Yeah, and I'm kind of the same way. Like even when everything was going on and people didn't know what it was, like I just didn't think fear was it. Like I just didn't think like, crying over it or getting upset or getting angry. And, it wasn't me like telling other people don't do that, but it was just how I took it. And
Yep.
I think just because I've been through so many different medical things and just in life, like it was just more or less like, okay, if it's going to happen, like, it's going to happen. And, we'll figure it out when it does. And, just kind of keeping that mindset that, this isn't something that's going to break me.
Exactly. And that is completely how I think of it. Like, um, not saying that we're um, invincible and that we wouldn't get it or anything like that. And, um, you know, I don't know. I just feel like I am doing things and taking steps. And I have a really good friend who is a doctor, and I ask her opinion all the time. Like, like if I do this, does that help me? Things like that. And she's fantastic with answering those questions. So I just feel like if we all can kind of start taking some of those steps, to education is so important, but then, to implement some of the things that we learn into our lifestyle. Exercise alone boosts our immune system. So start walking, every day. You can go do that. Even in the, major closed downs, you could go out and go for a walk. So um, you know, we just have to take control of the things we can control, because we definitely can't control whether a virus is here. It's not the last one that's ever going to come. One thing about COVID is that it became such an issue because no one had antibodies for it. Like, um, they have never seen anything like this in humans. And so, of course, it's going to affect us in different ways. We can't control like all the viruses that we're going to be exposed to. So, like back in the day, I think it might have even been H1N1. It affected younger people. But the only reason why it affected younger people was because I think it was like people born before 1968, they were like exposed to a family of a virus that H1N1 was related to. And so they had antibodies. And so it didn't really affect them. But the people born after 1968 weren't exposed to that. And so they didn't have that. And so they were affected. Like, there's science behind all of it. And I think as long as we can actually like educate ourselves on that part of it, rather than listening to news stories, there are scientists that, you know, talk about, the virus itself and like how it's different, or, whatever. And you can see, like, they tell you how it attaches to the body and how, it affects people and whatever. So, that's one lovely thing about the world we live in today, is that you can go on YouTube and you can find pretty much anything that you want. So, it's really easy to, like get educated with some of that stuff and take out the, mainstream media stuff, that can definitely try and, play a role in how people think one way or another.
But yeah, I think like the biggest takeaways were just, you know, being human and like empathetic during this time, and keeping yourself healthy, safe, but also just being resourceful. Like those three things are like the three tools that I think helped me, get through, the craziness and like things changing and like, everything else. It's trying to create your own normal during an, unnormal event.
Exactly. I had said that in the last, I think it was the last episode. I said, still get up and get dressed every day. Like, there are things you can control. So, like, if you can control those things, like, that's what you should focus on.
I agree.
Wonderful. So, with that, I think anyone who has, more questions, or if they would like to share, I mean, obviously, this is something that everyone is dealing with. Um, you know, give us your input, send us an email. You can find all of our links. We're on Facebook, Instagram. It's growaheadpodcast@gmail.com. So we would love to hear your thoughts on that, or if you have suggestions of things that people can do to kind of make a more normal daily routine for themselves to help them get through, that would be wonderful to hear.
Yeah, definitely. And throughout, whatever you're going through or whatever you face, just know that like this isn't the end. This isn't, the be all end all. And things are gonna get better one way or another.
Yeah, and you're definitely not alone. So there are lots of people, whatever it is that you're feeling, there are lots of people who are feeling the same thing. So um, just know that.
So
Wonderful. Well, thank you for joining us today. And this will be on Wednesday, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say or any input, seeing your emails, and then catch us again next week on Wednesday.
yes, and have courage to grow through life and not just go through life. Alrighty. Bye everybody.
Bye, everybody.